it wasn't he alone. When he was without hope, he didn't find God. God found him and rescued him. And I think it's that idea here in the lives of our donors and volunteers and people in the community of influence who are saying, if hope is going to transform our community, if love is going to win, then we've got to be about it.
Before we jump into today's episode, let's talk about why we're here at the table. Cary, if you could give someone the next 30 minutes and tell them about why we're here, what do you hope they walk away with?
Yeah, Abby, I hope each person who listens to this episode walks away with hope that even if today is raining and storming in their life, whether that's with a mom chasing kids all over the house, or whether that's a grandfather thinking about his legacy, that as they walk away from this conversation, they have more hope than when they started listening.
That's awesome. Why do you believe stories are such a powerful way to understand what restoration really looks like?
Yeah. Well, you're not going to ask me all the questions, so you ask a question, then I get to ask a question. Yeah. What do you believe? Why do you believe hope matters, Abby?
I feel like hope matters in so many different areas of life. You know, we have hope when we're in a season of life, like you said, when it's raining and storming, you know, that'll stop eventually. But we also have hope whenever it's sunny and there's a rainbow out, you know, knowing that we can get through anything when we have the Lord with us.
Yeah. That's great. All right, you get to ask a question.
Well, Cary, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm a husband and a father of 2 rambunctious, wild, beautiful children. Me and my wife, Ashley, are being raised by them as we raise them in a little part of the world called the Dark Corner, or more properly, Landrum, South Carolina. And we are loving life. And it is my privilege and honor to serve my Lord Jesus Christ.
Why are you at this table today, Cary?
That's 2 questions in a row again, Abby.
I know.
All right. Why are you at this table today, Abby? Why are you doing this work?
Well, I'm at the table not just to be a host of a podcast because of personal reasons, because I experienced restoration in my life when I was in prison, when I came home and needed grace and a second chance and needed to be rebuilt. And I experienced all of that. And it's a privilege to me to be able to be here today to bring all of those stories to life and let people who've experienced restoration have a voice.
Mm-hmm. As they say in the South, that'll preach. Yeah. Can I ask a follow-up question, or are we going to play fair and you get the next question?
You can ask a follow-up question.
Yeah. Are you going to make listeners tune in over the next 24 episodes in this season to learn more about that story, or do you want to share now? You might just keep them waiting, huh?
I think they'll just have to tune in. Maybe that'll be our season finale.
Yeah. Well, what I can say about stories that I've heard thousands of stories. I would say some would say I'm a collector of stories from what I've seen and where I've been. I think that's going to be what's going to give people hope as they tune in. Because this isn't a branded program. This isn't obviously even very structured. What we want to do is invite people in to see and to hear with real people's voices, donors, participants, volunteers, state correctional leaders, donors. We want them to hear people's story in a way that they listen in to say, hey, how can these people continue to have and to multiply hope?
Right. I think from a perspective standpoint, I'd love to know why, the work that we're doing and what we're bringing to life on this podcast, the donors, the participants, the alumni, the volunteers. I might be missing one, but why their perspectives are so different and why they matter.
Yeah. Man, that's a great question. Why do different perspectives matter? That's a word for the season we're in. People are living in different silos, and they are often only hearing people who think just like them, see the world just like them, and it makes them very fearful of other people. And so that's what I'm really hoping to accomplish through these conversations. I'll host some episodes and you'll be hosting others. But I hope that as we invite people to share their story in a way that they've lived it, it helps the people listening and watching consider their own story. So, Abby, I think stories matter because we're all meaning makers.
Absolutely.
Jesus came with a few sermons, and most anyone of any religion in the world would at least say Jesus is a great teacher. Like, we believe differently, but almost everyone would acknowledge he's a great teacher. And he gave a few sermons and principles and precepts, but he told a lot of stories. And we see him in action in a lot of stories of real people.
Absolutely. On this show, we'll have the volunteers who walk alongside people who need restoration and need someone to hold their hand, and the donors who make it possible to experience grace, and the people who are experiencing the grace, right as they're rebuilding their lives, restoring their lives. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's really good. What question or what idea in your life, Abby, if we can jump back to you for just a second, what idea would you encourage those listening today, or question they should ask themselves, that would help them maybe take a next step on their journey in life? Like, what's your favorite question to ask new people? Like, if Joe, who's listening to this in Charleston, South Carolina, stuck in traffic again and wondering why he's in so much student loan debt and trying to pay it off at a job he doesn't like, if he's listening to this, what would you encourage him to ask himself as he tries to make meaning of his life?
I think if Joe is in Charleston and in student debt, he's young. And I think for young people and asking a younger generation, what's the meaning, what's going to be your meaning and your purpose, is when you look back on your years, what did you really do? What did you really experience? What stories do you have? What stories do people know about you that matter, that mean something, where you were there and you helped someone or someone helped you? I think looking in a lens of the future, that's a perspective, and thinking of it in that way kind of puts things in perspective, I'd say.
Yeah.
When you look at your life for 30 years from now.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
What's really going to matter to you?
Yeah. So that's the question you'd ask Joe or others listening in is, don't think about just today. Think about what you're going to look back on and be proud of and take action in line with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think Andy Stanley wrote this, and this isn't an endorsement for him or against him, but it was a question he asked that has always stuck with me. And it was, In light of your future hopes and dreams, what is the wise thing to do? Like in what you want to be true in the future, what action should you take today? What do you think's your next question?
Well, I'd like to go into, all of our people that we serve and who serve us, and
Yeah.
and just learn a little bit more about Jumpstart and what we do and what they're all about.
Yeah, I think that's great. Is it fair to answer a question with a question? Or is that uncivilized?
Well, you've been doing it thus far, so might as well keep it going.
Yeah. When people ask you, Abby, what does Jumpstart do? What do you like to tell them?
I just asked you that. Jumpstart is a life-changing program. It's a nonprofit in South Carolina, but it is a program that disciples the incarcerated and helps those people who were incarcerated coming out re-enter society, get back on their feet, give them a jump start.
Yeah.
Using our master's plan to do it.
Yeah.
Helping people find purpose in their life greater than their past.
Yeah, that's great. So you shared a lot there. Can I ask just a few follow-up questions?
Sure.
I mean, you can turn them back on me. You can play that game too.
Okay.
What do you know about the Inside program? Like you say, Jumpstart's active in the prisons here in South Carolina, and the model created here spreading into other states. So that's super exciting to see. But what's, I mean, you shared you were in prison. Did you go through Jumpstart in prison?
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
So what was different about it, if anything? What was different about it from the other programs available there in the prison?
Well, I'll have you tell our listeners what the Inside program is and what that
Okay.
looks like, and then I'll tell you what it meant to me and how it was different to me.
Yeah, fair enough. Jumpstart exists to break the back of recidivism in South Carolina, our nation, and beyond. Recidivism is the cycle of men and women going to prison and then getting out. Typically, that cycle of recidivism is measured in a 3-year kind of time period. How many people go back to prison within 3 years of being released? And so we seek to break that cycle because nationally, the number has come down. It's now around 30% of people will be released and then come back to prison.
Wow.
Yeah. And in South Carolina, that's something we lead the nation in a good way of breaking that cycle. In the state's rate of recidivism about 18%, so 18 out of every 100 will return within 3 years. And at Jumpstart, over the past 10 years, we've had over 1,800 people complete that Inside class and be released.
Wow.
And less than 4% of them have returned to prison.
That's awesome.
So we are breaking the back of recidivism. The core where the program starts inside of a prison is it begins with hope. I remember sitting in the first Jumpstart class, and I didn't really care to be there, but I respected the chaplain who had asked me to attend. And I remember sitting there, and here comes in this guy. He's about 40 years old at the time. From the look of him, he's tired. Looks like he's been working hard, and looks like he's carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. And he shared that he'd been in and out of prison. He didn't have a lot of hope. That he come from a neighborhood of people without a lot of hope. But that he had found a way out of the game and was now back leading in the home with his family. He's got 7 children.
Wow.
And he shares that he's working all night as a janitor, trying to start a business so he can come in during the day. be proof of hope. That's what we're doing. Is those 1,800 people that have made it are proof that God is still the author of comeback stories.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's powerful. And in South Carolina, we have 22 prisons and Jumpstart's in 19 of them.
Yeah.
19 prisons where this one man who had hope and wanted to give that to others and spread that is now spreading it across the whole state of South Carolina.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think when you think about voices at the table, we're thinking about that in that name, that it's a community of people that make restoration possible,
Right.
that it takes a village. And we'll talk about Restoration Village more later. But Don would be the first to tell everyone that it wasn't he alone, that he couldn't have turned his life around, that when he was without hope, he didn't find God. God found him and rescued him. And I think it's that idea here in the lives of our donors and volunteers and people in the community of influence who are saying, like, if hope is going to transform our community, if love is going to win, then we've got to be about it.
Right.
And that's how this started, as a very grassroots effort. And we're still, I wouldn't say bootstrapping it, but we are living by faith with the work that we're doing. And I think as we do that, more people are going to have hope.
We need to get Don on the podcast.
Yeah. He'll definitely be a featured guest.
Absolutely.
So kind of back to you, because I could jump into the methodology of our Inside program and all the research and social science and theological scholarship that kind of makes up what we're doing, because we're not just going in and giving hope. We're going in to really teach people how to live a different way of life. We're using our voices at the table with them to say, you can have a future greater than your past. And there is a master's plan to help get you there. And we're also willing to tell them, okay, we've played all the games in our own life, and you can, play the game. Just sit in the theater exercise here. Like, if you want to pretend you've got it all together, then you're basically telling Jesus you don't need him. And if you see life that way, then you're still blind.
Absolutely.
So I could talk about all of that at length. And maybe we will at some point. We might have a podcast episode if people let us know they want to know more about that.
Yeah.
We can get into the real thick of what we're doing and how it's based on best practices. But you said we could come back and ask you about the Inside program. So what was your experience like?
Yeah. My experience was transformational. I think I had the same thought that you did going into the program. Maybe not that I didn't want to be there, but I didn't know what to expect. I had been to several other programs in prison before, just different classes. But this one was different. Jumpstart was different. I don't know what it was about walking in to the classroom. Well, not a classroom, the visitation room in prison, and just seeing people who were already there, excited to be there, smiles on their faces, people who had been through the program, volunteers who were there, just like so welcoming. And I was like, this is not prison. This doesn't feel like, this dark place that I'm in. And I go in, I'm, just young and not really sure what to expect. And, the program itself teaches you to figure out or helps you see the purpose for your life. And the first page of the book that you go through, it says, it's not about you, because it's not.
Yeah.
Your life isn't about you and what you can do. It's about what he can do for you using the master's plan.
Yeah, that's really good, Abby.
And during that class, I was able to really let go of a lot of things that I held on to, that I felt ashamed of, and, just felt like I couldn't move forward or have a future. And
Can I dig in there a little bit?
yeah.
You said things that you were ashamed of. So like shame and punishment wasn't changing people in prison? Because you said that like the Jumpstart class was like a completely different culture almost because of the hope and the joy people had. So in Jumpstart's model, how is that idea of, yes, what you did was wrong and you need to pay the penalty for whatever your crime was if you're found guilty? How can people can't be shamed into good behavior? Because that's kind of the prison approach.
I mean, it is, but that's not that's not the Jumpstart approach. That's not Jesus's approach to life.
Right.
Yeah. You have a new life in Christ. That doesn't mean that it's not there, but you have a new life in him. And I think for what Jumpstart does and how they're different than that shaming you into good behavior approach can work for some.
Yeah. Maybe.
Short term.
Yeah.
In the time, but
Right.
it doesn't work long term. You can be molded into whatever if you're guilted into it and ashamed for those years. But then what happens when you come home?
Yeah.
What happens when you come home and you didn't have a true transformation and you didn't let the Lord into your life and say, hey, this is not who I am anymore.
Right.
And I think that, staying true after release, that's the biggest thing with Jumpstart that I can say from being on the inside and then coming home. Even though I didn't go through the program on the outside, but changing, having that true transformation on the inside, that heart change, not just an outward appearance or whatever you want to say, making yourself think that you've got it all together.
Right.
But that heart change, that whenever you come home, that carries into your life and who you are, and that you know that your future is going to be greater than your past because you have a new life in him.
Yeah. Beautifully said. Yeah. Can I tell another story?
Go right ahead.
I think the idea of Don coming in and giving hope that day, I think I listened a lot closer and it's had the impact on me. Because shortly after I was sentenced, I was at Tiger River Correctional in Spartanburg, South Carolina. And I was 19 years old at the time and had a long time to go. And I didn't know if any of my family would live that long. When you go to prison, it's an event, psychologically, mentally, emotionally. No matter how tough of a persona you've got. And my friend John was about to get out, and I said, John, what are you going to do when you leave this place? And I'm telling this story because his voice helped shape my restoration. And he said, Cary, I'm coming back. I said, John, you're coming back? I said, we've been doing Bible study, man. And I know we just studied Jeremiah 29:11, where God says, I know the plans I have for you to give you a hope and a future. And John said, yeah, he's done that. He said, but as far as this life, I'm coming back. And I said, well, what do you mean? And he said, well, you're just naive. And I was a little bit of a smart aleck. So I said, well, John, why don't you educate me? And he said, Cary, I've been in and out 4 times now. He said, when I get out, I'm going to get a one-way bus ticket to the county in which I committed my crime. And when I get off of that bus, nobody's going to be there for me. All I'm going to have is clothes on my back. And I'm going to walk off into the night hungry. He said, and you say, well, man, just go get a job. And he said, well, I don't even have $12, so I can't get a birth certificate that I have to get a Social Security card. And I have to have both of those so I didn't get an ID. And all that takes a lot of time. He said, I can't even get the birth certificate because I won't have $12.
Wow.
He said, but say I could find someone to hire me and work under the table. And I could live under the bridge and eat out of the dumpster while I wait 2 weeks to get paid. He said, I wonder how the people at work would feel if I was wearing the same thing to work every day and started stinking. He said, how do you think that would go? He said, Cary, one time, the first time in life, he said, I got out and I was determined. I'd lost my mom. And he said, I lived under that bridge and I ate out of that dumpster. He said, and I saved enough to finally get an apartment. And then when I went to get the apartment, they said, man, you've got a criminal record. Nobody's going to rent to you. And he said, and I broke. He said, so I just stole something to come back. I didn't know this idea of voices and hope was going to all intersect. And so we aren't just giving people that hope. We're providing the infrastructure to move them from places of brokenness to places of healing.
Wow.
Last year, we had 12 people who were incarcerated less than 2 years or had been out less than 2 years from incarceration. And within 2 years, they became homeowners.
Wow.
So for them and their children and the people watching, all of them have voices of hope. And now as they go into schools and churches and manufacturing plants and all of our wonderful partners who do so many wonderful things to make this work possible, because it's a community effort.
Absolutely.
We're not here to sing the praises of Jumpstart. It's a community effort. And those people's voices matter because it puts the glory of God on display in a way that gives people hope. So, Abby, as we wrap up today's episode, why don't you tell us about one of the voices that's going to be coming next?
Yeah. Super excited about our next guest on the podcast. We're going to have Tiffany Martin coming. She is a Jumpstart alumni. Tiffany's story is so powerful, Cary. She was in prison more than once. I'm not going to tell you guys too much. You're just going to have to wait and hear it. But her story is very powerful to hear how she experienced restoration when grace and hope came together and her life was restored.
Yeah. That's going to be really cool. And so someone listening may think, well, I already know the outcome of that story, so why am I going to listen? I think they need to listen to the details of stories. I think the details of stories are the truths that give people the practical steps to take that next step and purpose in their own life that we talked about earlier.
Oh, yeah.
So I think as we sit at the table and everyone's willing to listen to others, they're going to hear truth that helps them take a step in life.
Absolutely.
And we don't have anything to sell, right?
Nothing to sell.
No T-shirts. Are we ever going to get a sponsor for this?
I don't know. We might.
Well, we'll see. King Jesus keeps writing the check. We'll be just fine.
That's right. Kingdom class work.
That's right. Yeah. All right. We'll see you next week.
See you next time, Cary.
All right. See ya.